give you the option.
James, he's Chris. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How are you, pal?
I'm doing good. I had a good fantasy week. Not so good on the spreads. Made through my survivor, so it was all right.
Right on, man. You're still alive in your survivor pool, eh, buddy?
Yeah, I was afraid of a separated shoulder to Baker Mayfield that was going to cost me. And if you ask the Houston coach, a hamstring injury to Tyrod is what cost them the win, apparently, because they were going to beat Cleveland, according to the coach.
You mean they got no faith in Davis Mills?
That's from the way he said it. It was basically if Tyrod didn't get hurt with his hamstring,
Tyrod or bust,
they were going to beat Cleveland. That was his exact words. And
they're rolling. Those Texans didn't look too bad, man, with Tyrod in the game.
Yes, once it's flipped over, it was a little different. But we'll talk a little about that later. So, but yeah, how'd you do in fantasy? Did you have a good week?
Yeah, I had a great week, actually. Better than the first week. I finished in the positive, so that's always good. I mean, with the amount of leagues I'm in, it's going to be hard to finish, perfect. But
what are you at, 95 now, 100?
103. It's a little bit of time consuming. My family kind of hates me a little bit during football season, but what are you going to do, man?
So you start today to set your lineups, and hopefully by Sunday you're done? Is that how that works?
Yeah, I've created a software that kind of does it for me, so I don't got to go back. Just waivers can be tedious. It's an all-nighter for waivers. Oh, no. James.
No, I'm still here.
You're back. There you
are. Sorry. You know what? We got a little bit
frozen
of
a
storm happening in the area, and I may be cutting in and out. So
the 103 leagues kind of shocked you, eh?
Yeah, it threw me off. I was ready to go. Speaking of football, let's do a little recap of what happened in week 2. We'll sit there. We'll go through some scores here. We're not going to talk about all the games like we did last week. We're just going to go run through some of these. Some of them we will. The Thursday nighter saw the Giants and the Washington football team. It was actually a pretty good game considering Washington edges out the Giants 30-29. Then we saw
all the primetime games have been pretty good so far. I don't know about this Thursday one coming up, but they've all been entertaining, man. It's been an entertaining couple of weeks of football.
I said that about the last one, and it turned out to be actually pretty good. And I didn't want to watch it, and I saw myself sitting there watching it. So, but yeah, then we had my Cowboys taking on the Chargers, and this game was an interesting one. Both defenses played really well. We had predicted it to be a high-scoring affair, and that's not what we got. Both QBs kind of. I guess we're more on the bust side of things, Dak being one of them for sure. And Herbert had a little bit higher of a score, but the referees were horrible in this one. I will say it, and I'll admit it.
Atrocious. We can't get fined, James. We can say it, man.
Oh, it was bad. Like, I'm still trying to figure out, like the game was called, basically the Chargers were on the Cowboy goal line. They had just got a touchdown. An illegal shift was called, which I don't think anyone saw the illegal shift, but they said, okay, illegal shift. Then was a false start. Then the Cowboys were about to sack Herbert. He's midair throwing the ball away
while stiff arming the guy.
The referees call him down midair and call it a sack. I was like, what is going on? No one knew what the heck was going on. They thought it was intentional grounding, and then they called him down and forced the field goal. Cowboys come back and kick the game-winning field goal, 54 yards. Even there, they almost screwed up the clock management. I don't know what McCarthy was thinking at the end.
Supposedly, in Los Angeles, they shut one of the clocks off that he was watching, and he didn't know what time was left. Supposedly there was a clock that he was looking at the whole game, and then throughout the whole game, near the end, the clock disappeared on him. So
that's hilarious.
I mean, you probably could have looked up, you probably could have looked right, you could have looked left. There's got to be a clock somewhere else. But that's Mike McCarthy, buddy. You live and you die with Mike McCarthy as a Dallas Cowboy fan right now.
Nonetheless, the Cowboys did win the game, so I was happy with that. And there was some big outputs from a few guys. I mean, Tony Pollard was a huge one. We're gonna talk about him a little bit later. 109 and a TD. Zeke had 71 and a TD. He finally showed up. CD caught 8 for 81 yards. Cooper only had 3 for 34. That was interesting. He got hurt at the end. I think a rib cage injury.
Bruised ribs.
Yeah, I think it was just bruised. Herbert threw at 338 and 1. Eckler had 54 rushing and 61 receiving. Allen
nice to see him getting involved in the receiving game.
Yes, that was nice.
Week 1, not a target. Week 2 really stepped it up. So it was good to see that.
Yeah. Allen had 104 yards, and Mike Williams, who we called to have a big game, went for 91 and a TD. So it was a good overall game. As a Cowboy fan, I was happy. Any other thoughts on you for that game there, Chris?
Just I don't really have. You pretty much covered everything. It was horrible reffing. It was a tough game to watch just because the reffing was so bad. But as a Dallas Cowboy fan, if you take your bias kind of out of it as a fantasy football player moving forward, who's going to be the running back to own in that backfield? Is it going to be Tony Pollard? Is it going to be Zeke? Can you start both and be comfortable starting both? Is it going to be a situation where 1 week it's Zeke and 1 week it's Pollard going off? What's kind of your take on that whole situation?
So that's a great question. We're talking about Pollard a little bit later in our ads for the week, and right off the bat, I'll say it's still Zeke's backfield. No matter what, it's still Zeke's backfield. They're going to give the ball more to Tony Pollard because it's an extra week in the season. They don't want to run Zeke out. But I was reading some numbers on the way that the sort of the boxes stack up against the team. And when Zeke's out there, he's getting 70% of the time extra players to stop him. When Tony Pollard's out there, he's only getting 30%. So the difference is that they know Zeke's out there. He's probably going to run the ball, so they're stacking the box. Whereas when Pollard's out there, they don't know whether they're going to throw it to Pollard or let him run. So he's getting a little bit better of the opportunities. He's going to get a little bit of an increased role, but Zeke's still the starter. Zeke's still the guy.
So Zeke's the guy to own. But you
could still start Pollard as a flex.
You're comfortable starting both.
I would be comfortable starting Pollard as a flex just because I'm seeing what they're doing right now, and I think they're going to use him a little bit more.
He's nice, man. I think on any other team, like mostly any other team, he's the RB1 on that team.
He would be. Yeah. They're going to be in trouble when they have to re-sign him because he's going to want a lot of money, and he's probably going to walk. I think it's in a year or two from now. So
yeah, probably right there.
Be interesting. Then we had the Denver Broncos and the Jags. This game wasn't really thrilling at all. Broncos end up winning 23-13. The Bills shut out the Dolphins 35-0. This one was an interesting one. The Tua got hurt in this game with bruised ribs, and then the Buffalo defense was just outstanding in this one. Josh Allen, another kind of okay game. I think he only put up about 17 fantasy points or so, 18 points. Like it wasn't
17.6. Yep.
Right. So is there a problem there with Josh Allen? Do we think that
he almost had that one rushing TD, but they called him, I guess because he was in the motion of sliding, they called him down before he hit the end zone. So his day could have got a little more salvaged, but 35-0, you're expecting a big day out of last year's QB1, and he just didn't produce.
I got him in one league, and he just hasn't been the same. It looks like it's like I'm waiting for him to do something. Even Diggs, he had a better game this week, but it's just they're
got
not
the
clicking.
TD at least.
Yeah.
So
then we got Browns and Texans, which we talked about. Browns win that one 31-21. That was a good game as well. The Bears beat the Bengals 20-17. This one here was an interesting one because Justin Fields came in. We got to see a little bit of him with the injury to Dalton. So that was there. And I think he might be starting this week coming up because Dalton's injury might take him out for more than a week. San Fran's defense showed up and they beat the Eagles 17-11. A bunch of San Fran running backs got hurt again, which is no surprise. That's what happens. I think they
got to get danger paid, right? They got to start getting extra pay for San Francisco 49ers running back.
It's like I think they signed 3 more today, so they're just going to keep signing, keep putting them in. They get hurt, sign, put them in.
Oh man, most dangerous jobs with Mike Rowe. He's going to be a 49er running back.
Yeah. Then the Carolina Panthers hurt your Saints there and won 26-7. That one was an interesting one. That Carolina defense is for real though. They're pretty
stout,
good,
man.
Yeah,
stout.
They're pretty good. So, I want to move to the next slide there, Splash. All right, then we got into the Rams beating the Colts. This one was back and forth. Colts kept it kept it in place there. And I thought the Rams had it early, but the Colts just kept coming and coming. They just couldn't finish it off. Carson Wentz also got hurt. A lot of QBs got hurt this week. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Then you got the Raiders and Steelers, 26-17 for the Raiders. This one was an interesting one.
Yeah,
he looked
good.
Coming
out. Wow.
Henry Ruggs, 100 and something yards and a TD.
Yeah.
I think it was 114. He had a big game too. And Waller, I think, did not. I think he only had about 4 or 5 catches this week. So he was a little bit lower. I guess their plan was to stop Waller. Unfortunately, they couldn't stop everybody else.
Still had seven targets, 5 receptions for Waller. So the outputs there, if he got a touchdown, would have been a little bit more of a salvage day from fantasy wise. But man, the Raiders are rolling, man.
They look good. I mean, I watched their game last week. I watched a little bit of this one, but they look good. I mean,
now, is it typical Raiders though, where they come out in the first half of the season and then die out? Are they getting hot too early? Is it one of those things that, you know, are they spending their juju just way too early on in the season, and then halfway through they're going to completely die out?
They already lost their running back 2 weeks in, and now they're going the other way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, what do we got here? Then we got the Patriots and the Jets. This one was a battle of the rookie QBs, and Mac Jones won. I mean, both QBs didn't look good in this one. Mac Jones didn't put up much to begin with. It was more a defensive side, and Wilson just was worse on the other end. And I think Harris had a touchdown and a couple of yards. Was it 50 or 60 yards? We called him getting a touchdown this week as well. So it was one of those ones there.
Gotta love when the QB pushes the pile, eh? Did you see that? When Mac Jones ran up to push the pile to get him into the end zone? Yeah, well, that's moxie right there. I love it.
Right? Whatever you got to do.
It. Truculence.
This one was a fun game. Vikings and the Cardinals. This one went down to the wire as well. Cardinals end up winning 34-33. Vikings had a chance to take the lead on a last-second field goal. I believe they were like 17 yards out, was it? It was a chip shot, something like that. And he missed.
It was a bit further than that, I think.
Was it? It was they said it was one of the closest chip shots. I couldn't remember the exact number, and he missed it. And so the Cardinals end up winning the game, but
just a bit outside.
Yeah. Kyler Murray looks amazing. He's just all over.
He's that dude, man. He's that dude. And that defense isn't really that great. So, you know, he's going to have games like that where he's putting up those big numbers. I mean, even last year before his injury, he was on pace to put up, you know, gargantuous fantasy numbers. He was the QB1. He got injured, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. And he's on that pace again this year. So he had 400 passing yards, 31 rushing yards. He had a rushing TD and 3 passing TDs. I mean, if you were able to draft Kyler Murray, you're laughing right now.
I have him in a few of my leagues, so I was definitely happy with that, especially because I faced Lamar Jackson in a few of the other ones, which we'll talk about after.
Yeah.
Cousins didn't do bad either, though. He had 244 and 3 TDs, so he matched them. Dalvin Cook, 131 yards on the ground. He looked good, just no TD again.
Is he in next week, or is he out next week? Have we heard an update on that status?
Injury update on him. All I heard was that he hurt his ankle at the end of the game, and that's all they're saying. No one's saying out. No one's saying anything else as of today. He'll probably won't practice until Thursday, and then we'll kind of see from there. But
gotcha.
The coming out party here was Randall Moore, 114 yards.
Rondale.
Sorry,
put some respect on his name, James.
Yeah, that guy, 114 yards. So I have I have 2 questions for you.
All right.
What do you think of the Cards' run game? Is there any run game? What do you do with this in fantasy? Are you like?
I mean, if the games keep going like this, where they got to pass to stay in the game, they don't have an opportunity to slow it down with the run game, then no, the run game is non-existent. Is there a guy that I would like to have over like James Conner or Chase Edmonds? You know, I'm comfortable starting Chase Edmonds just based on his passing work. He had 5 catches this week for 30 yards. The yardage isn't there, but he is involved. For me, the RB1 on this team is Kyler Murray. Yeah. When you really break it down, right? He's the guy that you're going to want in that running game per se. But yeah, I don't trust James Conner. I would put Chase Edmonds in my flex if I needed to, but other than that, man, I don't really trust anyone in running the ball for the Cardinals outside of Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I agree. The other question I have, what do you think of the start of the season for Justin Jefferson? I mean, he hasn't led his team in receiving yards yet. I think he had a touchdown this week, only about 60 yards again.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a decrease coming? Like, is he going to get back to what he was doing? Is it still the injury problem, or is it?
We talked about it prior in some of our older stuff where we mentioned that the season he had last season was historic based on his numbers, his targets, the limited amount of targets that he had, plus the yards that he put up 1,400 yards last year, man. And with the amount of targets he had, for him to sustain that, he would need an uptick in targets. Granted, he had 10 targets this past week. He caught 6 of them. It'll come. He's on the field a lot. He's running a lot of routes. He's seeing the passes. So it'll come. It hasn't come right away, but based on where you drafted him, he's not meeting that expectation based on his ADP. So I don't mind Justin Jefferson. If you could try to buy him low, I don't think anyone's going to try to sell him as a buy low target. Yeah. But if you can make a package to try to acquire him, that's definitely someone that I would want on my fantasy team.
It's true. Since you said historic, why don't we go into our next game? The Bucks and the Falcons, and Mr. History himself, Tom Brady, did it again.
Does it again, man. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what his diet is, but he keeps doing it, man.
48-23 over the Falcons. This is their 9th straight game where they've won, and it was for 30 points or more, going back to last season in the playoffs. It's crazy. And he threw 5 touchdowns. This is his 8th time in his career doing that. 276 from 5 touchdowns. Gronk also tied a record. He had 2 receptions today. So it's 3 straight games going back to the Super Bowl of 2 TDs in a game. He tied the records with tight end Ben Coates, who used to play for the Patriots. And the Tampa Bay defense had 2 INTs for scores as well. So it's just like, what do you do? The defense is scoring, the offense is scoring. How do you stop these guys?
You don't. You just can't, man. I mean, the book is out. If you pressure Brady, you have a good chance. But trying to pressure Brady with that line he has and the weapons that he has and his ability to see the field and go through his reads and everything else, man, good luck.
What he's doing right now at 43, they're everyone's saying we didn't even see him do this in his prime. He's doing better now than he did in his prime.
He's put together 3 Hall of Fame seasons in his whole career.
Correct. But they're saying that he could pass all of his season records this season alone with what he's got. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. And he's 43. I mean, like, it's just,
and they got an easy schedule. Well, one of the easier schedules. So
that was NFL doing. But yeah. So the next game we have here, this one was a fun one too. We got the Seahawks and the Titans. The Seahawks led 23-9 at halftime, and then all of a sudden, Derrick Henry decided, nope, this game's not yours. He rushed for 35 times, 182 yards, and 3 TDs. Julio had 128 receiving yards, and they
got robbed of a touchdown.
He did get robbed of a touchdown. Touchdown, the Titans came back, tied it late, went to OT. They won the coin toss, turned the ball over. Seahawks turned it back over, and the Titans win with a field goal. So it was a good game as well, fun to watch.
Yeah, it was nice to see them utilize Derrick Henry in the passing game and actually get him into space. 6 targets, 6 receptions. Yeah. He didn't have a great first half, and he came on. I think he only had 12 carries in the first half. And then he ended up with 35 for the game. So they've recognized that the Tennessee Titans offense should run through Tractor Cito. And when it did is when they really started coming on. So
they couldn't stop him. He's too big. No. It's crazy.
No.
So on the Seattle side, Chris Carson salvaged his day with 2 TDs. He only had 31 rushing yards. We talked a little bit that they're no longer rushing, it looks like. And Lockett had a huge game again, 8 receptions, 178 yards, and a touchdown. So it was a fun game to watch. I was surprised that the Titans needed the win, especially losing in week 1. So it was good to get them to come back and whatnot. But Let's move on to the game of the week. This was the KC Baltimore game. Chris, this was probably the most fun this was more fun than last week's Sunday nighter. It was crazy. The big talk of the game coming to this one was Jackson versus Mahomes. His record versus Mahomes was 0-3. His record versus every other team was like 38-5. They were saying Mahomes is his kryptonite. He said it once, and that's all they kept talking about through the game. KC was leading. So his first drive, he threw an interception for a touchdown was Lamar, and everyone just thought, okay, this is not going to go very well. And I think it was 35-24 going into the fourth quarter, and Baltimore ends up scoring 12 unanswered to take the lead. And then they had a drive with about a minute and something left. Baltimore's got the ball. They go down. It's fourth, and I believe it was 2. Coach comes running out. Lamar, do you want it? Do you want it? Lamar says yes, and he goes and rushes for 2 or 3 yards to get the first down and destroy any hopes of Patty coming back. So it was a fun back and forth game. Lamar showed up and said, no, I am not letting this happen. And what'd you think of it?
I enjoyed watching as a football fan. I enjoyed watching it. It was a good game to take in. Fantasy wise, it was okay. Some of the bigger names like Tyreek Hill didn't really have a good game.
14 yards. That's
it. None of the running game was good. CEH had that fumble. But other than that, it was nice to see Marquise Brown keep going off, man. Since I think it was like might it even be like week 8 or week 10, maybe even week 12, somewhere around that range from last year until now. The last 10 games or something like that, he's averaged about 14.29 fantasy points per game. I think he had about half of those games where he finished in that wide receiver 1 category. So it's nice seeing him being a focal point of that offense, especially based on where you drafted Marquise Brown in your leagues. It's definitely paying dividends. So it was a good game to watch. Fantasy wise for the Chiefs, I mean, it was okay. For the Ravens, it was more beneficial. But yeah, man, I enjoyed it.
Lamar had 239, a touchdown, 107 and rushing yards and 2 TDs. He was a beast this week.
Yeah.
So, of course, Kelsey put up his 109 and a TD. He had that run. I don't know if you saw that run that he did.
Printed money, that guy, man.
I could not believe it. I was facing a guy that had Lamar and Kelsey on Sunday night, and I'm just watching this game, and I was winning up until these 2 guys came in, and I just see the Kelsey run. I'm like, are you kidding me? He broke 4 tackles. He should have been down twice, and unreal. It was
Jeff Taxes and Travis Kelsey, man.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. So, and then the NFL finished the week off on the Monday nighter with the Green Bay Packers getting revenge and showing people that they're not as bad as they were in week 1 versus the Detroit Lions, 35-17. Aaron Jones was the star of this one. He had 4 touchdowns. Crazy part here was, did you hear the story about, so this was the first game that he had to play with his father passing away for COVID. Yep. He was wearing a necklace.
He lost it in the end zone. Yeah.
Had his dad's ashes in it, lost it somewhere. And he's like, well, it's probably better off on the field. They still haven't found it. Apparently it's somewhere.
Yeah. He thinks he lost it in the end zone. And he said, if there's one place to lose it, it's in the end zone. So it's good.
We got a little comment here. So Mateo says, I traded Saquon, Marvin Jones, and Pascal for Hill, Fournette, and Mitchell in a 16-man PPR. Did I win? Ooh.
16-man, it's tough to value some of these guys. You got Saquon and Marvin Jones. I'm expecting a big uptick now for Saquon after these first 2 weeks. Marvin Jones is steady in that Jacksonville offense. And Zach Pascal is good target if Carson Wentz is playing for Hill. So you got Hill, Fournette, and Sony Michel. Fournette's the number 1 in that backfield right now. So, and then you got
the ball much. That's the problem.
Yeah. And then Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's a pretty even trade. If Darrell Henderson's injury isn't too much of a thing for him, then Michel's going to be kind of a secondary role. I wouldn't roll out Sony Michel against the Bucks, but did you win the trade? Right now, looking at it, I'm gonna say I'd rather have Saquon, Marvin Jones, and Pascal, but it's definitely a trade that can that can
if
change.
If you needed RBs and that was why you did this to try and get a few extras,
with whatnot, no context,
I could see it there. But it's funny because I just made a trade and I got Saquon and Marvin Jones in my trade. So, all right. Well, that's our recap for all of the games on Sunday. It was fun. Let's just go through a few of these injuries because there were some big ones if you haven't already seen. So like we said, Colts Carson Wentz got injured. It was both ankles now they're saying, but he's day-to-day. So keep an eye on that. I believe Essien is the backup right now because that's the only one they have back there. Eason, sorry. Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa also went out.
You got that one good.
It was ribs. They considered him day-to-day. There's no break. That's good.
It's just the man pain tolerance thing now for him.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Texans QB Tyrod Taylor, which we talked about, hamstring. He's already been ruled out for Thursday, so the backup is going to start. He's considered week to week. Bears QB Andy Dalton, it was his knee. There's reports that there's no tear, only a bone bruise, so it's all pain threshold. But I'm hearing that it might be Fields to start at least this week. Once Dalton is healthy, they're saying he will go back in. So take Fields starting with a little bit of salt, a grain of salt, because it may not be long. Baker, we talked about. We thought he separated his shoulder. He went out to the locker room, came back, and he finished the game. They said that there's no problem with the shoulder. He should be good. Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry went out with a knee injury. I believe it's an MCL sprain. They're calling it now.
They put him on the IR. Yeah.
That hurts. I got him in a few leagues. Rams Darrell Henderson also, it was rib cartilage. They're saying. But they're saying they're confident he could play in week 3. So keep an eye on that one. Vikings, Dalvin Cook, like we said, went out with an ankle. There's no news as of yet. Steelers, Deontay Johnson went out with a knee injury. The report is there's no major damage, but there was a report today the Steelers coach says that he's not sure if he's going to be able to play. So keep an eye on Deontay. And like we talked about the 49ers, I just wanted to say it because Elijah Mitchell went out with a shoulder, went out, came back. JaMychal Hasty went out with an ankle. He didn't return. Trey Sermon went out with a concussion, also didn't return. I don't know who's going to start this week and who's going to finish this week, so just keep an eye on the San Fran situation. All right, let's go into our stud teams of the week. Stud and dud teams of the week. Chris, I'll let you go through this one. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, for the studs, we got some big names on there. Probably some usual suspects, guys we're going to see on this list often. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, both had big days. We just talked about running back wise, Derrick Henry, 30 plus carries. Aaron Jones with the 4 TDs. Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford's favorite target, 32 fantasy points. Together, oh man, unreal. They're breakfast buddies, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but they enjoy breakfast every morning together. So that's why the connection is deeper than probably most of the other targets there. But
I normally have breakfast with my family.
Yeah. Well, hey, the Rams, that's a family for them right now, right? Especially during the season. Lockett again. That's probably the second week he was on here. You had Terry McLaurin. It was nice to see him show up. He's QB proof. Yep. I probably maybe even like him more with Tyler Heineke than I do Ryan Fitzpatrick, but that's going to be left to be seen. Travis Kelce, I mean, you could probably just build next week's studs, just leave Kelce's picture there, and it should be good. We had Graham Gano go off for wide receiver 1 point in the kicking game.
It's funny, 22. Last week Gano was on the other side of this, on the duds with only 1 point, and this week he was 22. So you can...
Yeah. Oh, we lost you, James, buddy. And then we got Tampa Bay with 16. Although I do think we might have slipped on this one. I think the Bills ended up scoring more than the Bucs. But I mean, it all depends on scoring at the end of the day. And then duds of the week. Zach Wilson threw four picks. Did not have a good day. We called that. He was one of our sits. Hopefully you sat him. Mac Jones, only 7 points. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was absolutely atrocious, 2 points. This one's a little heartbreaker for me. Alvin Kamara, 5 points. I mean, the game script just wasn't in his favor after they were down by so much. Ayuk again. I mean, he beat his last week total, but he only got 1 point. Corey Davis, 2 points. That was tough, man. It's tough. It's tough when your quarterback keeps giving the ball over. Antonio Brown, we both expected a big week out of AB, and he just let us all down. Dallas Goedert, 3 points, tight end from the Eagles. Joey Sly missed a bunch of kicks. He is actually on the Texans now. We have him here on the Panthers. And then the Browns DST versus the Texans. Well, again, we were expecting a big week out of that versus the Texans, and they failed us as well. So those are your studs and duds for week 2. Some of the biggest fantasy producers throughout the second week. There are some patterns here. If you look at it, like Travis Kelce, Brandon Ayuk, second week. Yeah, exactly. So
there were some honorable mentions before we move on, though. So for the stud side, I hate to say this because I've been against them all season.
Ferrari.
Tom Brady also 29.64 points.
He's QB5 now, isn't he? QB5, QB6, Daniel Jones.
Okay. Pollard 21.5 points. McKissick 17 points. CMC was up here again with 22. Yeah. Mike Evans had a comeback, 22.
Staples. Yep.
Cordarrelle Patterson 21.4. We'll talk a little bit about him later. We talked about Rondale Moore 20 points. Cortland Sutton had a nice comeback with 20 points. Hollywood Brown 20 and Henry Ruggs with 20. Oh, and the surprise tight end Max Williams from the Arizona
Cardinals.
Yeah, he had 12.9. On the dud list, there was some big names again on this list.
Your boy.
Dak Prescott, 9.84. He didn't throw a touchdown. That's crazy. Trevor Lawrence, 8.82. Your boy, Jameis Winston, 10.34.
It was a good set. It was a good call, James. I'll give you that one, buddy. Give yourself the good old Barry Horowitz and give yourself a pat on the back. That was a good call. I didn't like it, but hey, man.
Ronald Jones 4.1, Jonathan Taylor 5.8, Elijah Mitchell, who everyone picked up on waivers, 6.3, Joe Mixon 7.6. These are big name guys. Barkley and James Robinson 7.6. Laviska Shenault only had 0.7. I believe he got hurt though in this one. So Marquise Callaway 1.8. DJ Shark 2.4. Devonta Smith didn't have a good game this one, 2.4. Cooper, who we talked about, under 3.
But he's battling an injury too, right? Mari Cooper.
No, he played most of it. It was at the end, man. He was.
There was a report that came out where he's a bruised ribs as well, a rib issue as well. I mean, even in week 1, you seen he was laboring a bit, but it's definitely a situation to monitor.
AJ Brown had 5.8. AJ Brown was funny. There was a tweet that he posted out after the game. A family member of his told him that you couldn't even have caught COVID today. That's how many he missed. So.
Oh man,
yeah, that was
from the family members is bad, dude.
And then George Kittle 3.7. I mean, George Kittle hasn't had a good start either. So there's a lot of big names and whatnot out there. So we'll keep monitoring it. We'll bring you guys some more next week, and we'll kind of go from there. But let's get into our top 7 ads of the week and top 7 drops of the week.
Yeah, James, before we jump in, if you like what you're seeing, like the stream, subscribe to the page. You'll get the updates, all the other U Stadium shows. They got Play Like a Jets, Dolphin Dive. Henry and Ryan previewed their H&R locks this past week. So you get all that content. You get timeout with U Stadium, the sports desk, all that stuff. We are accepting super chats and super stickers. Anything from you guys is appreciated. But and then go download the U Stadium app as well. But James, let's dive into these waiver ads for week 3, buddy. What do we got here? It's a nice looking list.
I'm going to talk about KJ Osborne, a wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. Week 1, Osborne he played 81% of the snaps, saw 9 targets, and had 76 yards. And everyone kind of was like, should we get him? What is going on? I mean, you got Thielen, you got Jefferson. Well, week 2, he followed it up with 5 catches, 91 yards, and a TD. So he's clearly the number 3 option on the Vikings, who they seem to be needing the offense to do a lot more, as their defense can't stop anything, it looks like. So they're going to be, looks like they're throwing the ball a lot more, and that's good for everyone except for Jefferson, because it seems like they're throwing to everybody, not just to one player.
Yeah.
So he has a favorable matchup versus the Seahawks secondary, who just gave up over 100 yards to Julio through the air, and I think he'll be a great flex option for anyone this week.
Yeah, and again, he's owned. You can see it there. He's only 3% in Yahoo.
Yeah.
So he's
And
worth
we
worth a bench spot.
Yeah, we said to use about 12% of your fab if you can on him.
Yep. I'm going to talk about here Mr. Rondale Moore from the Arizona Cardinals. He's owned 35% in Yahoo leagues. He had 13 targets, 11 receptions, 182 yards, and a touchdown through his first 2 games. Now, he does see a limited amount of snap share percentage. I think he's hitting like the 40%, 42% mark. So the fact that he can do a lot with the little that he's got tells me that when he does get that uptick in snap share percentage, he's going to become even more valuable. Versus the Vikings, he had a 77-yard TD. He was wide open. He caught the ball. He put the burners on, and he got the score. Through 2 weeks, with that limited amount of snap share, he is leading the team in targets. He's got a great schedule for the wide receiver. His playoff matchups are Detroit, Indianapolis, and Dallas. I mean, this guy could potentially be a league winner. Pick him up. We are suggesting that you spend about 15% of your fab on this guy. Pay attention to if there's a league chat, if there's a group chat that you and your league mates are in, pay attention to what's going on in there. You might have to put a little bit of extra fab to secure this guy, but this is definitely a guy that I want on my rosters.
Yeah, you were high on him before the season started, and he looks good. And to get what he's getting, they're saying they're going to give him an uptick in a lot more going through the season as they go now. And I was a little worried about AJ Green and Christian Kirk, but I think he could be better than both of them. So,
yeah, we got a question here, James from New Life. He says, "Hello, who should I pick on waivers? J.D. McKissick or Cordarrelle Patterson?"
Ooh,
you got a take on that?
You know what? I kind of like Patterson. The way they used him, we're going to talk a little bit about him in a second as to why we have him on our list. You'll hear it from Chris as we go through it, so we'll give you some of those reasons there. But I like Patterson. I think that they're going to use him more, and we'll answer exactly why in a minute or two. So just hang on. Number 3 here on our list is Tony Pollard for the Dallas Cowboys. 54% owned on Yahoo. I know it's a little bit higher, but we're still saying if he's available in your leagues, definitely go get him. And we're not saying as a handcuff anymore. Now we're saying this guy could be a flex option that you're using because of the way that the Cowboys are using both running backs. He had a bigger day than Zeke on Sunday, as we said earlier in the show. And he seems to be carving a bigger role week in and week out. And they've already said they want to give him more because they don't want to burn Zeke out. Zeke is still the starter, so just remember that when you're going. Like I had said, I think Zeke's faced stacked boxes 72% of the time, while Pollard's only faced it 33% of the time. So that explains why he's seeing a little bit more. But they've been talking about Pollard for years. They said that Pollard could be a number 1. We said that.
Yep.
You know, he's can do it if there is a Zeke injury. I mean, this guy could be a league winner to begin with for you, and they're using him. So if you got him, I definitely take him out. Would I use him and Zeke in the same lineup? I think I would, especially depending on which team they're facing. If it's a team that doesn't have a very good run defense, definitely. But if you need a flex spot for the next couple of weeks, I would definitely put him in and be comfortable with it. And we're saying to use about 12% of your fab to get him. Yep.
Let's dive into Cordarrelle Patterson,
sure,
James. He's 16% owned on Yahoo. We want you to spend about good numbers, about 10 to 13% of your fab budget on Cordarrelle Patterson. As for the Atlanta Falcons as a whole, I don't trust any part of the run game, but to see that Cordarrelle Patterson is also part of the passing game is a plus. He's finally starting to make an impact in football in general. Week 1, he was a big part of the Falcons offense. Week 2, he was even bigger part of the Falcons offense. The Falcons were better when he was on the field as opposed to Mike Davis. They saw about a 50% split between handoffs in week 2. The Falcons are bad, man. We've seen it. They were in that game a little bit, but they're bad. They won't be running the ball at a high percentage. I think they're based in league totals, they're last in rush attempts. If I'm picking one of the RBs to roll out in this offense, it is Cordarrelle Patterson. The first 2 weeks of the playoffs for fantasy football, his matchups are a plus. But as of right now, he's nothing but a nice depth piece. So as for Cordarrelle Patterson or J.D. McKissic, I kind of think they're one and the same, where 1 week they're going to go boom and 1 week they're going to go bust. It's kind of like pick your poison kind of thing. But if I had to pick one of the two, I'm picking Cordarrelle Patterson over J.D. McKissic as of right now. But again, next week that could completely change based on J.D.'s usage. So Cordarrelle Patterson is definitely a guy that you're going to want to have on at least right now on your bench. He'll be a great guy to fill in buys and whatnot moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why we were waiting on it, because we did have some notes on that. But yeah, that's why I take Cordell. I think he's going to be good. And I was wrong on Mike Davis. I can admit it. And it looks like they don't
clip that. Can we clip that? Can we clip that and we'll blast it all over you, Steve?
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Why don't we move on to Sony Michel so I don't have to hear you laughing anymore?
Yeah, let's talk Sony Michel. He's a guy that he's going to get an opportunity just based on Darrell Henderson's injury. He wasn't going to see that much of a snap share before the injury, just because he didn't have the grasp of the playbook that much. But if Henderson does miss some time, Sony Michel is definitely a guy that you're going to want to pick up. He's owned in about 60% of Yahoo leagues. We're looking to spend at about 8 to 10% of your fab budget on the guy. It's just a case of next man up. I personally want to try to get as much pieces from that offense as I can. They're rolling. When Hendo P went out with the injury, Michel went 10 carries, 46 yards. He didn't see a target in the passing game. But if Henderson does miss a significant amount of time, he could be a serviceable RB2 in one of the top offenses of the league. Another player with a favorable matchup after these next 2 games, which are Tampa and Arizona. I do not recommend starting any running backs, let alone Sony Michel versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But after those 2 games, out of the 12 that will be left, 7 of those games are ranked against teams that are in the bottom 10 of the league in defensive rankings against the running back. So there's definitely going to be some plus matchups there for you to start Sony Michel.
Yeah, keep an eye on the injury. Rib cartilage injury is never a good one. That kind of tends to linger, and it could put him back out. So, this is just a good ad to have in case he re-aggravates it, even if he does get back in. So we're going to talk now about Tim Patrick. We had him on our honorable mentions list last week. I believe he was only 2% owned on Yahoo. He is now up to 22% owned. So obviously a lot of people picked him up last week. We are saying definitely go get him again this week. In week 1, he came in late, obviously, because of the injury to Jerry Jeudy, and he ended up having 4 targets for 4 catches, 37 yards and a touchdown. In week 2, he solidified himself as the wide receiver 2 role in Denver. He had more snaps than KJ Hamler and Hamler, sorry. And he had 3 catches, 37 yards and a touchdown in this one. So he's trusted. He did really well last season when he came in for Cortland Sutton as well. So the team likes him. He's a sneaky guy that apparently everyone seems to forget about. And again, it's only 22% owned still, even though. So he only went up 20% from last week. You guys can go get him. We're saying to use about 8% of your fab on him. And he could be a sneaky flex option, especially if he's still scoring touchdowns. 2 games, 2 touchdowns. Good start.
Yeah, buddy, it definitely is. Some people might even say he's the best wide receiver on Denver, but that's not me. That's not coming from me. Some people, but
some people. All right.
Moving forward, our last one here, a guy that I heavily drafted coming into the season, Sterling Shepard. Through 2 weeks, it's clear who the wide receiver 1 is in New York. the fact that Kenny Golladay kind of missed time through preseason and training camp and whatnot, kind of solidified the connection of Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard. He leads the team in targets, receptions, and receiving yards. Granted, it's only been 2 games, but still, that's something that you wanna cash in on. He sees a high percentage of snap share, plus 90%. He's Daniel Jones's favorite targets. Through 2 weeks, he's averaging 16.9 half-point PPR points. He's currently wide receiver 11. He's got a decent schedule for the wide receivers, and he's out of all the guys that we are giving you today, Sterling should be the main one you go after if he's available in your league. He's owned in about 57% of Yahoo leagues. I'm comfortable spending a high amount of my fab budget on him. We got it here at about 20%. So you can definitely go higher than that if you want to acquire Sterling Shepard. But out of the wide receivers in the New York Giants locker room, Sterling Shepard is the guy that I would want to own over Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton. What do you think, James? Is he the guy you want to? I know you're a Cowboy fan normally.
I know I like Sterling Shepard too. I see it. You can see it. He's just targeting him like crazy. I mean, the chemistry's there. I'm actually even saying I would think Slayton over Golladay too right now. I think Slayton's
I don't know. I think
2 good weeks already, and Golladay still hasn't started yet. So
and I get that, but Galladay's still seeing a good amount of targets. He's on the field a lot. He's running a lot of routes. I think with the issue that happened on the sideline where he was yelling at either Jason Garrett or Daniel Jones, one or the other, I think this coming week they might try to force him the ball a little bit more, so you might see more of an output for him in fantasy wise. But again,
he still has to catch the ball and do all that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not happening.
I don't know if I'd put Darius Slayton above him yet, but I mean, he definitely happens.
But I mean, so far, fantasy wise, Darius Slayton's ahead of him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you want to look at it like that. Yeah.
A few honorable mentions that we wanted to say if they're available and you see them. Henry Ruggs had a big week, 114. He could be a guy that could go off now on this Raiders offense as the wide receiver 1. Daniel Jones, like I said, if he's still out there, he's put up some really good weeks as well. Justin Fields, quarterback for the Chicago Bears, if he takes over and does as well as we think he can and doesn't lose this job, he could be a quarterback to help you win championships down the road. And looking at the injury to Dalvin Cook, if he is hurt, Alexander Mattison is someone you definitely want to have. And if the Cook owner hasn't picked them up, could be a steal for you. So
yeah.
Let's move on to some of our drops of the week. We got 7 of them. We'll just put up the slide here. We got some big names here. We got some interesting ones.
Trey Sermon's never going to see the ball again.
Trey Sermon was talked about the most, and then he came in. What do you have? 1 carry or 2?
One carry, 1 fumble, and then a concussion.
One concussion.
It's unfortunate that he got injured. Never want to celebrate an injury or anything like that, but it's tough, man. It's tough being a 49ers running back.
Yeah, no, I know. Cole Kmet, we talked a little bit about him. We liked him a little bit, but I mean, he's just not getting the targets there. Terrence Marshall, we like him as a rookie in the dynasty leagues. We definitely like him there, but to be the number 3 guy and probably number 4 when you look at it, because you're still after Christian McCaffrey too, so it's tough to have him.
He's the wide receiver 3. He's behind Anderson and DJ Moore, so he's definitely a guy that you can draw.
And doesn't catch enough even behind CMC. So he's technically the 4th wide receiver when you really look at it. Your boy Marquez Callaway, what are you seeing on the Saints side? Are they just not using him, or?
It's just, high hopes, great preseason, came into the season and that's it, man. Like that, he's been a dud ever since. I'm comfortable dropping him off. And then James Conner, another guy not seeing a great opportunity share. And then Tony Jones. I mean, if you got Alvin Kamara, Tony Jones is definitely a guy that you might want to just keep as a handcuff. But if you're hoping maybe drop Tony Jones for a Cordarrelle Patterson or Sony Michel, that's fine. I'm good with that. And then probably one of the bigger names on this list, Ronald Jones, he's definitely the second running back behind Leonard Fournette. And like you mentioned earlier, they don't run the ball a lot. So if there's one of the running backs that I want in that backfield, it's Fournette. So I'd be comfortable dropping Rojo.
Yeah, no, for real. I believe we got some questions. Why don't we pop those up, Splash? What do we got? All right, New Life. Is Hollywood M. Brown the real deal? Chris, you talked about him. Why don't you continue there?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Like I said, past 10 games, he's averaging double-digit fantasy points. He's Lamar's first read, so Lamar is going to look at him. If he's there, he's going to throw him the ball. They worked out together all offseason. He's definitely the guy to own in that wide receiver room. When Rashad Bateman comes back, I don't know if I'll have too much of an impact on Hollywood's production. But yes, I'm going to go with yes. Hollywood Brown is the real deal.
Yeah, I agree. Yo, can you guys rate my 12-man PPR team?
Yeah. Lamar, Antonio Gibson, Swift, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Robert Woods. No, I'm fan. I mean, solid, man. You just got to hope that Antonio Gibson comes on. Tyreek Hill, his games where he has 5 points is going to be few and far between. I like it. Robert Woods, stud. Noah Fant, great in that offense, especially with Judy out. And Lamar's plug and play. Definitely a contender.
Yeah,
agree?
I like it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
to get that many guys in that league is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. Your thoughts on the 49ers backfield?
Hospital? Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm Elijah right now, like Trey Sermon's on our drop list here. He's definitely a guy that I'm comfortable dropping. Elijah Mitchell to me is a hold. At least he's a hold to see what happens. I mean, there's no one else playing running back. They brought up a guy, I forget his name, Jacques something or something like that. They brought him up off the practice squad.
I think they signed that guy. Was it off the
practice
squad?
They signed him. It was off the Cincinnati Bengals practice squad. Yes,
there, but they're bringing in Lamar Miller.
They worked out Lamar Miller, Duke Johnson, and someone else. But
that's this week. Next week they'll work out 3 more guys.
But again, if you're a running back, do you want that job?
Why is Todd Gurley not here yet? What's going on with Todd Gurley?
Todd Gurley's knees are in an old age home, man.
But he's better than these backs that they're working out right now. There's got to be something else.
I don't know if he is.
Anyways,
but Elijah Mitchell, Alan Gardner for this week at tight end PPR. Should I start Tyler Higbee or Kyle Pitts?
Ooh.
James, what do you got here?
I would have said Tyler Higbee before this week, just because of how well he did in week 1. And then he did so poorly in week 2.
He did, but he did play over 90%. He just didn't see the
there's so many options there. You don't know where he's going to go.
But like
Atlanta,
the Indianapolis LBs, man, they're no slouches. So there's definitely reasons why he was shut down. But if you had to pick Higbee or Pitts, who you putting your money on?
I think I'm going to go Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Pitts this week. I think he's going to he had 99 points, fantasy points. He had a good week. I think he's going to build off it and go a little bit higher this week. So I like Kyle Pitts.
Thanks, Alan. Well, you Chris Carson or DJ Moore at flex full PPR. I like DJ Moore here, man.
I like DJ Moore this week too. Facing that Houston defense, he did really well last week.
Especially full PPR, man.
Yeah, I think
Sam Darnold is dialed in. He is slinging it out there, man. Yeah.
They paid 6th-round pick for that guy, and they're laughing that they got
slinging it, man. He's slinging it. Give me, DJ
I like Moore. DJ Moore too.
Is that post-Gase syndrome that you were talking about?
New life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate that.
Javonte Williams, Denver RB. Should I hold him? Thank you, guys. I like Javonte. I like them coming into the season. I definitely, if he's a keeper league and whatnot, or if it's just standard, I mean, I still think by end of season, he's going to take over. They're still at a 50-50 share. My percentages are correct from what I'm seeing in their games. And
they scored in half PPR. They both scored 7.9 points this past week.
So they're both there. I definitely hold him. I think I have him in 2
he's a
leagues that
hold.
I'm just holding to see what happens. Usually the rookie running backs take a little bit longer when they've got someone in place before they can fully take over. So Mel Gordon doesn't scare me too much. I haven't seen much out of the first 2 weeks aside from that one big run that he had, I think it was, or else I think Javonte would be outscoring him anyways.
He's a machine, man. He's a tackle breaker. You've seen it in that one run there where I think he bounced off like 4 guys and then bounced off another 5 guys and put his hand down on the ground before he went down to get himself back up and keep trucking. Javonte Williams is definitely a hold.
Yeah. Thanks again, New Life.
Yes, thank you.
All right. I guess that's all the questions we have for now. If you have any more, please put them in. We'll definitely bring them up. Let's talk a little bit about some streamers before we get to the Thursday Nighter Splash. Hold on. We'll get there. I just had a few that I wanted to bring up. If you got a chance to pick these guys up, we talked about Sam Darnold. He's facing Houston. He's definitely a QB if he's on the waiver wire to go get. Daniel Jones, we talked about, another streamer that you can plug in there and go for.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, these are there. For DSTs this week, Carolina DST versus Houston, especially with Tyrod not there. Arizona DST versus Jacksonville could also be a big one. Tight end Jack Doyle, also a streaming option in Indy, especially depending on if they go to the rookie QB. They like their tight ends. So these are definitely guys that to look for, and you probably get them. You don't even probably have to put fab on some of these. You can probably pick them up a little bit later. QBs, especially in 1 QB leagues, you can probably get them late. The Carolina defense might be one of the ones you may want to throw a little fab at, depending on you that, just because I think a lot of people would probably try to get that deep. But yeah, that's what you're looking at for the streamer wise. You got anyone else there, Chris, or are we good with that?
No, I'm good with that. Streaming wise, Ewell said here, Noah Fant or Mark Andrews. I'm going to go with Noah Fant on this one, James. I'm not a big fan of the Mandrews, Mark Andrews, at least fantasy wise. I like the output that Noah Fant's gonna give me over what Mark Andrews is gonna give me. So give me Noah Fant.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's move into our Thursday night game, guys. You guys ready for this? The Carolina Panthers versus the Houston Texans.
Are you ready for this? Oh, man. Poor Brandon Cooks. His value's completely sewered with Davis Mills now. He was having a great start.
He still got a touchdown. He's still going to be targeted. He's still going to, is he quarterback proof? I always said he was. I always was like, no, but I got him in a league, and it's like there's no one else to catch the ball.
He might be quarterback proof to an extent, but you got a guy that wasn't a highly rated quarterback rookie starting his first game on a short week versus probably one of the league's better defenses.
Yeah.
I don't like anybody in the Houston Texans offense for fantasy purposes. I'm not comfortable.
That's what I put for any of them. Everything Houston.
Yeah, exactly. Sit the Houston team, period.
And then key starts for the week, CMC, obviously, Darnold, who we talked about, DJ Moore, if you got him, and Carolina D. Anyone else in there that would you start Robbie Anderson?
I think I would start Robbie Anderson in as a flex, but I don't like putting guys on that play Thursday in my flex. I like popping them into the wide receiver spot, their positional spot, to give me a little bit of flexibility if something happens before Sunday or Monday or whatnot. But I think I'm comfortable starting Robbie Anderson this week versus Houston.
Davis Mills, is he would, if you need a quarterback and he's on the waiver wire and you're not spending any fab on him, you get him for nothing. Would you?
No,
nothing, anything? No,
I wouldn't let him start my car, buddy.
All right, so our prediction for this one, I think it's easy to say we're both saying Carolina is going to win this one pretty well.
Yeah, I got Carolina. I got Carolina going about 28, and I got Houston at 6, 28-6.
There you go.
So maybe start the Houston kicker. I don't even know. It's Joey Sly, right? Yeah, he missed a couple, so maybe don't start the Houston kicker. Because Fairbairn got hurt, right? Kaimi Fairbairn got hurt. So yeah, Joey Sly now. Former Panthers. So maybe Joey Sly revenge game?
No. Have we ever seen a kicker revenge game?
No, not happening. Definitely not.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. So, but yeah, I mean, I've said before that, I'm not looking forward to a Thursday nighter. If I wasn't last week, I don't know if I am this week, but we're gonna watch it, and we'll see how many quarters I get through before I say, okay, I don't need to watch anymore. So, but yeah,
you're gonna watch it all. You know you are.
There's a chance. We'll see. So, but that's we got a question. There we go.
McLaurin or Allen Robinson? Ooh, that's a heavy question, James.
I want to lead. I have both these guys in a few leagues. I'm leading McLaurin. I think he has a better rapport with Heineke than Allen Robinson will with Fields, and I still think they need to develop that a little bit. I don't know what to expect from Robinson and Fields yet, and that's even if Fields starts. We still have no idea if it's Darnold or not, and Allen Robinson needs a little bit more before I would take Robinson over McLaurin. So I'm leaning McLaurin.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be close. They might have the same output fantasy-wise, but I'm comfortable putting in McLaurin over Robinson. I mean, if you got both those guys,
you might start both.
I'm starting both. Yeah. Drew Charlton, is this a good trade? TJ Hawkinson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Saquon Barkley. I have Waller, by the way. So you're trading Hawkinson and CEH for Saquon. I'm okay with that. I'm expecting Saquon to start producing, especially after these first 2 weeks. Whenever I was asked about Saquon, I told people, no, don't panic, sell right away. He's going to have a limited role those first 2 weeks, but there's nobody behind him that's threatening to take snaps from him. The big run was good to see. It's good to see that he's comfortable on that knee. So I'm okay with this trade. It is a good trade. TJ Hawkinson has been balling out, though. He has been balling out, man.
Yeah.
He's a main factor in that offense. CEH does see a high percentage of the snap share. And like Saquon, there's no one really behind him that's threatening to take his job. But what do you think about this one before I answer? It's tight. It's a good trade, but it's tight, man.
It's one of those ones where you're basically if Barkley turns it around and turns into the Barkley that everyone thinks he's going to be, then it's a great trade for you, especially because you have Waller. So you're taking away
you're set
the extra.
Already, yeah.
The person on the other end is getting two starters, though. You're only getting one. But if you weren't starting Hawkinson anyways, I mean, if you compared the Barkley to CEH at that point, I think I'd rather Barkley than CEH to start in my lineup. So I like it. That's the way I'd go.
Good trade. Yep. I agree with that, buddy.
Anything else there? Any other questions? I think we're good on that. So, all right. Well, that's our show for this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do it. If you guys want to reach out to us, we definitely are on the U Stadium app. You can look us up at the Option Fantasy, guys. We're there, and you can ask us any questions. We'll try to answer as best as we can. We normally are pretty good on there as well. And thank you again. And New Life, thank you again for everything you had there. Your questions anytime. Definitely look us up, and we'll definitely help you out as well. So
join us on Sundays as well. Sundays we got the live at 11, previewing the football day, answering all the questions, giving us start sits, all that stuff. So jump in with us.
That's right. We might even be debuting a new segment this Sunday, so you definitely might want to check that out, which might be getting a little bit more fan involvement. So we'll leave that as a little teaser until Sunday. But again, thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
See you guys on Sunday. Have a good night.